Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ABG Sundal Collier's Investor Day. My name is Mikkel Korsgaard Rasmussen, and I'm working as an equity analyst covering Danish IT and tech companies. Today, we're fortunate enough to have Penneo with us. Penneo is a Danish SaaS company providing solutions or digital solutions for signatures and onboarding of customers through its two solutions, Penneo Sign and Penneo KYC. And today we have the CEO, Christian Stendevad, and the CFO, Kasper Christiansen, with us. As you likely already know, the company will have 15 to 20 minutes to present their company, and then we'll proceed to do a 5-minute Q&A session. So, guys, if you're ready, then the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mikkel, and good morning to everyone. So I'm the CEO, Christian Stendevad, and I will first give a short introduction to Penneo and what we do, and then Kasper will take you into some of the numbers, and then I will take an outlook for 2022, so the remaining of the year. So if we take the next slide, then that's an introduction, and the next again, an introduction to Penneo. So as Mikkel just said, we are software as a service company for business to business, and we have more than 2,400 customers with the focus on digital signing, document workflow, and know your customer. And we have customers in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and then also Finland, Belgium, and Germany, but mainly in the Nordics. And we have the aim of becoming the preferred platform for auditors and accounting across Europe. We were founded in 2014, headquartered here in Copenhagen. And our mission and vision is to make it easy and beneficial for companies to be compliant in a world where being accountable for the way we do business is a matter of course. If you take the next slide, then this is our Penneo Sign. I can see that the presentation might be cut. So this is our Penneo Sign product that we are maybe most known for, because that was how it all started up, killing the pen back from 14. And with this product, we are basically all the manual processes around signing, but also approval of documents. That's how we digitalize. And what we are known for that is how we can have the industry and custom signing flows. So complex signing flows, and how we can deliver that very efficient. And if you look, for example, from a Danish market point of view, more than 2/3 of all our annual reports here in Denmark are signed with Penneo, and we have more than 740,000 end users that have signed with Penneo. So that's just as an example for Denmark. If you take the next slide, that is our KYC. So back in 2020, we bought a company and the asset of a company with Know Your Customers, or KYC, under the anti-money laundering regulation. And similar to the signing process, also these processes are very manual, but also from a regulatory point of view, they are mandatory to be done. And we simply digitalize these processes to make it much more easy, and at the same time also being compliant, because what you need to do is, for every customer you get on board, if you're under this regulation, you need to onboard them by making a risk assessment of who they are, check them up against PEP and EU sanction list, and then secure that you can document it afterwards, but also continuously follow up that is still the case. For example, if you have a senior management in a company and owners, so who are they? And if suddenly the owner changes, then you need to follow up on it. So that's the process that very often is manual today, that we make much more efficient. So these are the two product offerings that we have and that we go out to the market with. If you take the next slide, then both the whole digital signature market and also this electronic KYC market are in high growth. So these are some of the estimated 31% over the coming years for the digital signatures, and 22%. And we basically are experiencing the same here in Europe, where we have our main focus. If you take the next slide, then the way we go to market is that we start with tier 1. So auditors and accounting is our main segment, and we have more than 800 customers. That's where we start. When we enter a market, we start with the auditors and accounting. We basically also start with the big 4 and then the big 10, and then we go to the remaining auditors and accounting. When we have many of these customers, what we have experienced over time is that there's a network effect from them, because the ones that are signing, for example, annual reports, these are the senior executives at companies. And when they see how easy it is, and at the same time, how efficient it is to do it, then they also say, okay, we can take advantage of that into our own industries and our own company. And there we see a lot of branding out of it by itself, but also lead generation. So that is especially for what we call the tier 3, where we see this network effect. And then in the tier 2 that we have here, these are AML regulated company. So those that both need to have an advanced signing solution, but on top of that also would need our KYC. And here, as an example, financial institutes and property management, legal and law firms, and then real estate, just as example. As you can see, also from a number of customer point of view, we have grown year over year by adding more and more customer to it. And that will basically continue. And the way we have to go to market is when we enter a new country, it is through the auditors. And then with the tier 1, then we take the tier 2, and then we see the network effect to tier 3. So that's how we see it. If you take the next slide. And going forward, and also what we have recently here in the springtime, we raised additional growth capital in March. Then we have 2 focus areas. We have growth in existing markets with the existing that we saw before. And then on top of that, we have a strategy to have a geographic expansion into new markets. So it's both areas that we invest in. And from existing markets, it's very much about upsell our Penneo KYC product to auditors. That has a very high focus, and we have also prioritized a lot of our sales resources to do the KYC product and upsell that. Then we have also seen that there's an increased need in the AML governance industries, both for our KYC, but also for our sign product. And last but not least is the whole European expansion, which is done through the auditing and accounting. So these are our primary investment streams. This year, it's very much about taking advantage of this increased demand of the KYC. It's a regulatory, the customer, they are forced to do it, and they also see increased pressure on them because they are getting audited, and also the regulation get even more strict in the fight for money laundering. So we have focused on take advantage of that with our product. If you then take the next one, then we have also recently, and that was in our H1 report, we came out with one of the investment areas that we have been into, and that is to offer soon here in H2, offer qualified electronic signatures. There are 3 signatures level. There are the simple and standard electronic signatures. There's basically you can put it where you put in a picture or something else, and then we have the advanced. That's what we are offering today, and which is enough in Scandinavia, where you can use. It's a much more secure way of doing it, and often you use the electronic EID to authenticate with, and then there is the highest level, that's the qualified electronic signature, and that has the equivalent legal effect as handwriting signatures in all countries. So it's based on EU law, and this is the highest level. And we see, especially when you go south of Scandinavia, where that is needed for more documents. And we are about to become qualified on the trust list. So in the European Union, we have done all the work for it, and then we are now applying and expect to be on this list in H2, which will help us in our growth and expansion in here in Europe. So that was my last about our business. Then let's go into the next one.
So next slide. Next again. Yep. This is, as Christian said, we are founded in 2014, and this is the historical view of how we have developed our portfolio. This chart shows all the customers, the AR from the customers divided into the year they became customers in Penneo. And what you can see here in the dark blue column at the bottom is the ARR, annual recurring revenue, from the customers coming in 14. What is pretty unique for Penneo, we guess, is that all our cohort is growing year over year, meaning that when we onboard a cohort of customers, some of them will churn, but the remaining customers will uplift more than the customer who have churned. So that's a kind of the reason why we think it's positive for us to invest heavily into getting more and more clients in, and also why to support this development, we also acquired the company back in 2020, and now offering the Know Your Customer solution, as Christian just told about. Next slide. This is a 12-month historical view of how we have developed our portfolio. We are growing 33% from approx 48 million to 63 million Danish crown. And this chart shows that half of it, approximately, is coming from the current customer base, meaning we have a pretty low churn on 3%. We are satisfied as long as it's below 5%. When we're reporting, it's 3, 4, 2%. Uplift 17% divided to the original Penneo Sign product and also the new Know Your Customer product. So a net retention rate on 140%, 14%. Next slide. A part of when we became listed back in 2020, we raised 50 million to start out our internationalization. By internationalization, we here mean the revenue is coming outside of Denmark. In Q2, above 60% of our new base AR came from foreign markets. And in Q1 it was about 50%, and Q2 last year was below 40%. So it's going in the right direction when it comes to getting new AR from outside of Denmark. And this is just a chart shows how much of our AR is coming from outside of Denmark. Next. This is our SaaS unit numbers. And I normally focus on the last 12 months, since it gives an idea of how is it in average. We have seasonality, why one quarter can divide from the other quarters. But by looking over the 4 quarters period, you have an estimate of how it is. What you can see here is that we got 411 customers in the last year. It was AR the first year on 22 Danish crowns, sorry, and it cost approximately 32,000 Danish crown to get this new customers in on average. And as I told before, we have a net retention rate on 114. And since we see that we are having customers, which is from Q1 to Q2 is growing, we also see new customer is growing AR first year, and we have an uplift on our current portfolio of customers who's also growing. We see that we are growing our annual revenue per account. So that's what I want to highlight about this. Next slide. And then I'll hand over.
And then in the outlook for 2022, if you take the next one, then this shows both what we realized last year. We ended up with 55.5, and then we have guided here a growth between 40 and 49 on percent year on year compared to the 55, so 77 to 82. That's from a revenue point of view. And if you take the next slide, that's the EBITDA. So in here we originally guided for 22 -5 to -10 in our annual report, and then we made an adjustment here in our Q1 from -15 to -20, and that is a result of that we raised additional growth capital in March, and that's what we are deploying right now. So with the numbers that we saw that Kasper presented on the customer acquisition cost up against the average what we are selling to it, then we believe it's a good idea to invest in customers that with the very little churn that we have, that they will benefit from the years afterwards. So that's what we raised the capital for, and what we are right now are deploying. And by deploying, we mean invest in people, in sales and marketing, and in product to support our 3 investment streams that I showed earlier. So this is basically our guidance both for ARR and for the EBITDA. So then that was the last slide from our side. Then we are open for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kasper and Christian. So let's proceed to the Q&A session. My first question is, so you're currently in your second investment round after successfully completing the first one. So given that you can continue these very strong SaaS metrics, how long will you continue to invest in growth, and at what point in time will you perhaps seek profitability, or would that come as a result of the growth? Is that what you're thinking, or?
So when we both in 2020 when we went IPO on First North, and also here when we raised money, then the plan was that we invest them to accelerate the growth. But when we are planning it, it always end up, and here when it was in 2020, then it was basically around now that we had the expectation to be cash positive, and then go. And with the second round, we basically make the same curve. So we overinvest at the beginning, but then it end up that we will become cash positive in some years. And we will never run out of cash. So we can decide if we are now, okay, now it's on a good growth path, yeah, then we will not raise additional, but we can also evaluate and see, okay, we are doing great. The key figures are good. It makes sense to continue to invest. So with the existing one, everything is planned around that we never run out of cash, but of course we take advantage of the capital we have raised.
Yeah, makes sense. So we've generally seen that the CAC, so the customer acquisition cost, has increased over the years. How do you make sure that new ARR from new customers increase at the same time?
Yeah, so when we look at it, we always evaluate, the average ARR per new customers up against the customer acquisition cost or the CAC. We expect them, they both. It's okay that they both are increasing, because what we are chasing right now is we are chasing, the bigger customers, especially in the foreign market, and that might have, a higher cost, but that is fine as long as also the annual revenue per customer, they follow the same, proportionally the same size. So therefore we are fine with it that it would increase, and we also expect that our average over the time will increase.
And just to elaborate a bit, I think as an investor you need to understand that from quarter to quarter it can deviate from the path, but we are focusing on doing the right thing, meaning longer selling cycle, meaning higher CAC, but also meaning higher AR from first year.
So I think we have time for one last question. With respect to your application to become a qualified trust service provider in the EU, how will this add to your competitive advantage? I mean, how important is it to get approved, and when do you expect to be approved?
So to answer the last first, we expect to be approved here in the second half. So now it's up to the authorities to decide, and we expect it to be a formality. That's the reason why we went out with it, because we have done all the work. And when we are on this EU trust list, yeah, then basically we are on the highest level that you can be on electronic signature. And that is a help, because not in Scandinavia. In Scandinavia is allowed to sign, so you can buy a house by signing with Penneo or annual reports. But in other countries like Belgium, for example, you need to have a qualified e-signature to sign an employee contract, which means in practice had to be handwritten if you're not able to do it. There are a few vendors are on the list. So if you look it up, you will see, and it's a public list. Only a few vendors are on that list. So it gives us a competitive advantage. And we also believe, because we are basing our brand is that we are on the highest level of security and as a trusted provider. So it adds also to our brand that we are able to do it. So extend the number of use cases and add to our brand.
Perfect. So that's all we had time for. I'm sorry, but please remember that we do have company-sponsored research on coverage on Penneo, so you can all access our research. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact me or your ABG sales contact, and then we'll get in touch. So thank you guys very much for your presentation. I think it was very interesting, and for the rest of you, enjoy the rest of ABG's Investor Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.